Our sponsors for this episode are Hall's Tree Service. Locally owned and operated, Hall's Tree Service has been exceeding and surpassing customer demands in Newton and the surrounding area for over 40 years. Larry and his crew are guaranteed to work hard for you. There's no tree too tall, no job too small. Call Hall's at 316-772-1919. Absolute drain. Look, no one, and I mean no one, likes it when their sink, bathtub, washing machine, or especially their toilets start backing up. It's even worse when they won't drain or flush at all. No matter who you are, it happens to us all. If this is happening to you, then you need to give Garth with Absolute Drain a call. Absolute Drain is located at 420 West Broadway in Newton and has been faithfully serving Newton and surrounding areas for longer than I can even remember. I personally use Absolute Drain, and they have kept my pipes cleaned out and flowing day one. It might just be time for you to give them a call too at 316-283-7264. The Newton Kansan is Newton's longest-running local newspaper covering all the stories, people, places, and things happening in our community. Chad Fry, the Kansan guy, editor of the Kansan, works diligently to ensure integrity, accuracy, and unbiased news is delivered to your doorstep 3 times a week for an unbeatable price. You can also sign up for online-only access for around $7 a month. That's 12 online papers a month for only $7. If you've not subscribed, it's time you do. Visit them in their office at 517 North Main Street. That's 517 North Main Street in Newton. Online at thekansan.com. That's thekansan.com. Or give them a call at 316-283-1500. That's 316-283-1500. Support local journalism, support the Kansan. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley, and my 2 co-partners in crime. I'm going to switch them around this time, and I'm going to say is Chad Fry, the Kansan guy, editor of the Kansan paper, to give an unbiased, faithful, always critical opinion, because we're going to go with that again.
There's no such thing as an unbiased opinion.
I love it.
There's no such thing as an unbiased opinion.
It's an oxymoron.
My opinions, however, are informed opinions.
Okay. So, Chad Fry, the Kansan guy, editor of the Kansan paper, to give an informed, educated, and on top of every topic we talk about, opinion.
I try.
Okay. And then Andy, our local entrepreneur and businessman, but
super
not
biased.
Always so local.
Super biased.
As business knows no bounds, and
right.
Andy's business and entrepreneurship doesn't know any county line, city line, state line.
Thank God for that.
Yes, absolutely. Here pretty soon, Andy will be serving the needs of the Chinese people.
Well, we're already doing some work there. I'm watching those numbers tight.
I love it. Yeah, put something on a ship and send it to you versus the other way around.
There you go.
At least it's not oil. Because right now, seems to be that,
we're going deep today. I can just tell.
Any oil ship.
Man, this is going to be a big one.
Oh, boy. Okay, so if you're wondering what is on tap for this week, we are going to be discussing, let me get there.
I don't know. I'm wondering, are you?
A little bit. I glanced over our note.
Oh damn! Tomorrow's the podcast. I got to get something out to these guys. And news is interesting because we're not necessarily a news organization. We just take things that the news is reporting on and we give our personal opinions on it. Right? I mean, we're like Chad. He's the news guy. Right, as far as like locally, he's on top of it. He goes and researches it. He does it, so he has that critical mindset, that journalistic perspective, Andy business perspective. Biased, horribly biased in every way, but opinionated. I mean, but we love you. No, I'm just teasing.
It's all good.
I'm just teasing. It's all
good.
Your words, not mine. But you might as well indulge it. But then the thing is, there's so much going on in this world, and there's so many people that have something to say about it. And I guess it's kind of just like find your flavor and the people that you want to listen to. And hopefully what we continue to do, and I've had many people say this about our podcast, is that there are people that really like Chad and Chad's perspective. Don't necessarily agree with everything Andy says, and don't necessarily, but they all look at it from a perspective of we are people that come to this with an open mind, an open heart. We have our own life's experiences, we have our own worldviews, and so then we can sit at a table and just talk about it.
Yeah, right. You know what? There's also people who watch this and hate my guts. So
yeah, but they love me.
Let's be fair about this, right?
I always feel jealous because when people talk about the podcast, and I don't know what it is, but they're like, I really liked what Chad had to say. But Andy, I don't really know if I agree with the guy. And then the next one is like, oh, I really like what Andy had to say. I really, you know, he's just firing on all cylinders with me, but I don't know, Chad, you know, I mean, this and that. I'm like, well, what about me?
Yeah.
What about me? You know, like
Well,
is that what you guys watch the program?
If it makes you feel any better, I've been at the Y, and I've had that talk literally last week with the guy that caught me in the locker room on the way out of the sauna. And he goes, yeah, I listened to your podcast with Lance. And he didn't say anything about Chad. And he goes, I'll tell you what, one time, and he told me this story about how you got a flat tire by his shop. And he told me this whole story. And he said that you showed up many months later and paid him for it.
Yeah.
And he was super surprised because he didn't want you to.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it for that reason. But he was talking about y'all have grown a friendship since then.
Yep. Yeah.
And anyways, and he told me this whole story and told me that he loves to listen to this podcast, and him and his couple friends, they'll throw on some them games and put the volume down and listen to one of our episodes.
Yeah. 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 I think a lot of people
Isn't
are
that
doing
cool?
That. Well, and you know,
guys drinking beer on a pool table listening to our stupid butts.
Yes, yes. And you know, I know exactly what you're talking about, and some context to this, right? I was at a very, very, very low point, man.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, this was like 2 months post brain surgery.
Oh wow, so it's a while back.
Yeah.
So you've known each other for a while.
Yeah, this is going on like 7, almost 8 years, and I had lost everything, and I was trying to redirect and reposition, and I decided, you know, I'm going to go for the stars. I'm going to do something that you know, I've always wanted to do. I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to earn an education, right? So I literally was like the second day of school, and I was driving back, and I had messed something up because I didn't know how to do like some of the things. So they were like, the paper check is on the way. I have nothing at this point in time. Okay, nothing. I mean, I'm down to nothing. And all of a sudden, right at that exit, my tire starts blinking in the light.
I know exactly where it's at because I knew what. I don't want to say anything about the business or anything because I didn't have permission to do that. But I know exactly. He was actually my neighbor for a little while,
and I no more than get into the where the parking spot is, and it's flat. And I walked inside and I said, "Hey, I don't have any money. I don't have any way to pay you. This car doesn't come with a spare. That's like, I don't know what to do."
So that was a tough deal. He didn't say all that.
No, man. Yeah. And then, and I mean, I'm giving some detail, you know, and he's like, I got you covered. And then I told him, when I can, I will come back and I will pay you. And I tried to go back and pay him, and he would not take any money. And I didn't try to pay him what, you know, you'd pay somebody for a tire plug, you know.
Really?
I wanted to generously give to him.
To bless him back.
Yeah, and he was like, no, you pay it forward.
That's awesome.
So yeah, you know,
can I say, well, I want to say his business name, but he sold it. So I won't do that, but I will tell you one more thing about this person, and I'm going to get his permission. Maybe we'll give him a shout out, because just good humans like that are hard to find sometimes.
Yeah.
And I didn't know all that part. He just brushed over that part of it. He just kind of was telling me about this podcast. And I know he'll listen to this, so I do want to. I want to give you a shout out if you let me, but I don't want to if you don't want to. So there you go. Because he's just not the guy that's going to do it for that.
And he's a humble man.
Yeah, exactly. But I took a mower that I got a crazy good deal on to him when a friend was supposed to help me put the motor in. Right, it's a nice Hustler, really nice mower, kind of commercial grade one. 60-inch, beautiful thing. Goes like 13 mile an hour. I could mow at like 13 mile an hour. Imagine that. It's pretty cool. And long story short, he knew my neighbor, and he knew before I even got to him that I had been mowing a little bit over there from time to time. And when I went to pick it up, he knocked off a big chunk because he said, he basically referred to, he kind of knew what I was using it for sometimes.
Yeah.
And wanted to bless me back.
Yeah, you help so-and-so out, so I'm going to
help you out without any expectation. Just freaking beautiful, right?
And we need more of that. We need more of that. That's an example, and I believe there still are a lot of people that are that way. I mean, the world would want us to believe that there's nothing but chaos, selfishness. You know, your algorithms can bend you however it bends you, and before you realize it, like something that I've been seeing a lot of is there's so many podcasts and clips that just throws so much hatred towards women, right? And then the reverse is you have so many podcasts and so many clips that so much hatred towards men. And it's like we are focusing on just this, what I truly believe, a small portion of people, right? And then that just seems like it's all over the place all the time. But there's still, going back to this, there's so many good people out there. There's so much good happening, even though we talk about stuff that may appear negative at times or whatever, and there's a lot of that on the news.
Have some fun.
Yeah, the reality is life is good. You know, life is good. Okay, so the topics that we have on top for today are the Kansas legislature has begun, and what are some hot topic items that maybe you guys have heard about that are on tap for this year? Is Greenland next? And everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say that. Death in Minneapolis. Was it justified or unjustified, and who's to blame? And I think that will probably take up a pretty good portion of what we're going to talk about today. And then with all the things that are happening nationally and globally, will Iran see a regime change? Is that something that will happen? And there's an overarching topic that I'm going to try to put in here, because you guys know my belief on global politics and regime change and where that has led us in the globe in the past. Not always been, in almost every case that I look back on, not been a good situation. So with that being said, anything that you guys want to talk about that the Kansas legislature has talked about so far, bills that have been filed. One we talked about was the ban on cell phones. We covered that last week, I believe. So anything else that you guys know of that's coming this way? I know a Kansas senator personally, and there's some discussion about some things that might even affect Chad's line of work, which is, I think that they're going to try to really bring up, whether it goes anywhere or not, we all know the process here, but when it comes to publications. So Chad, explain.
Yeah, this is super interesting, and you are the perfect guy to just unpack it. And let's see if you can do it without being, what was the word we were using earlier?
Bias. Biased opinion, unbiased opinion.
You can do it. I've seen you do it before.
So how does that work? Like, currently Kansas law says what?
I'm going to speak to the spirit of what it says, because that is the lost part of the conversation. Because consistently, cities, counties, and townships, anybody who is required to publish legal notices, they are complaining about the cost of doing so. Okay? And that is a big one. Okay? So, and you know, a lot of those municipalities and groups, they're not allowed to solicit bids from newspapers like mine that view this as a community service and bid an extremely low rate with the attitude of some kind of a reimbursement for the service is better than none, right? And it being a community service, and the service is providing for the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law is that these organizations should not have 100% control of all of their information. That's the spirit. And to
government accountability.
Right. And to ensure that they do not, the law requires a third-party certified publication of legal notices. It's spelled out that it has to be a newspaper and that it has to be in the county of the municipality or county. That's huge, because, you know, here a couple years ago, Whitewater got caught and got really hosed over by, honestly, a sister publication, and that was all around the revenue neutral rate requirements during the first year of that.
And is this because they straddle counties?
So, well, yes, but because they're technically in Butler County, they can't come to us, and we're in Harvey County. And their mayor was pretty upset at the time and made statements to me Like, we would love to come to Newton. Most of our people go up there to shop anyway. This is, if we don't go to Wichita, we go to Newton. This is where we want to be. But we can't, because the law says it has to be a newspaper that's within our county.
Yeah.
And he's right.
Yeah.
But it's really about what it's really about is that third-party certified publication, and making sure that governments do not have 100% control of all of their information. There's nothing in that law that prevents every single one of those governmental agencies publishing the entirety of their
public notice
to their own website.
So they can do that also.
They can do it. It's not prohibited or restricted. But for things like, and I'll have to go back and read, because there's like specific things. But for example, the moratorium that Harvey County just passed for data centers, that requires a publication, and it is not considered official until it has been published in a third party.
And they can put it on their own website.
And under the letter of the law, that has to happen in an official newspaper of record.
Okay, so then my question becomes, and just playing devil's advocate here, because I'm trying to get my head wrapped completely around it, because I had another conversation with somebody that said, for like, you take the school USD 373, for instance, our specific one. So if you have a school district that overlaps into other counties, right? So let's say if you're in a school district,
Newton schools would be a great example, because it actually does spill over, I think, into
Butler County, doesn't it?
Butler. Over there and it's only just a little bit. Here, I'll give you an even better example. Gossel schools. Gossel spills over into Harvey County, even though it is headquartered in Marion County. Because it's headquartered in Marion County is where they need to publish.
Yeah, but wouldn't they also need to publish in Harvey County duly?
No.
It's a good question.
No. They only need to provide that third party. They only need to provide that through whatever newspaper is deemed the official newspaper.
And then I got another question.
Now,
about
that
this.
doesn't prevent them. Here's another one. And this one can get real intensely personal and real intensely close to home real fast. It doesn't prevent them from calling up somebody like the Newton Kansan and saying, hey, because we got 2 square miles in your county, we would really like to publish this legal notice in your county. How much is it going to cost? And then they're gonna pay whatever the going rate is, but they absolutely must publish in the newspaper of record. That is what the official publication is going to be. So things like calling us, putting it on the website, that is not considered an official publication.
Okay, and understanding this, okay, so these are all questions that have already surfaced and was one of the reasons why I have this as something that to talk about is, well, in instances not like one that we have here locally where there's more than one paper. Okay,
sure.
You have
same is true in Marion County.
Okay, so if you only have one paper in a community, right, and then the requirement is to publish this public announcement, for lack of a better word, right, then can't that paper ask whatever price they want? Because
sure.
So then there's so in areas where there's no competition, Chad, is that problematic?
Sure.
Yeah, you can call it. You can inflate your rate.
You can inflate your rate, but quite honestly, there's a responsibility there to negotiate a rate.
Like a journalistic responsibility.
On both sides of the equation. On both sides of the equation. Okay? I understand that my first newspaper job in this state, there were multiple newspapers within the county I was working in. And what they did there was so much different than what's been going on anywhere. And it was more about, so the county took the stance that they wanted to be fair to everybody. That's some pretty familiar language to me right now. They wanted to be fair to everybody. So what they did was they said, you know what, I think we should be paying, this is what I think we should pay for legal notices. And if you're willing to do the legal notices for that rate, we're going to put you in the rotation. So year 1, this newspaper gets it. Year 2, this newspaper gets it. Year 3, okay.
Fair enough.
All right. Granted, they had those newspapers available. They don't anymore.
But they also can't do this. Like I was just thinking, something came to mind is, well, why doesn't the legislature say, pass a law that says this is all you can ask for this? So many, but,
sure,
but they really can't. But they, because then you're. I mean, they can, but well, I mean, aren't you?
Well, it's just like insurance,
they can.
right?
They just have to ask themselves: are they wanting to regulate these businesses in that way?
Well, and that's for the world that I'm involved with, that can get sticky quick, right? And the way I choose to see the world, which, I'm not right all the time. And the group that I support, more of the capitalist mindset, and the way we choose to live our lives, that can get, you'll have people that don't want the government involved with anything. The libertarian types would really hate this, right?
Yeah.
But like when you're driving your car and you have car insurance, most people understand why we do that as a collective, right? And why we have to protect each other at a certain level because of the rates of car accidents and unpaid hospital bills and what it could do to a family and devastate a family if somebody else doesn't have any coverage at all. So anyways, in the state at some point, or the United States and the states all came together and said, hey, let's make sure we have these minimum requirements, right? So this deal, I mean, it would look really bad on a business in your field to really go crazy with the prices in whatever local area, depending on where that business cycle is and how that works. I just don't see. I don't see the need for doing that. I see the need in the community watching that stuff long term.
So previous ownership had a rate of $14. And we're clicking along at 2.25 now.
Right.
And I was very instrumental in getting that rate to 2.25. And it's because I wanted to change our culture. And I wanted to change how we viewed legal notices. And I want to change the way a lot of people view legal notices. And it's because I'm going to keep going back to it, that we don't want government to have full control of all of its information.
Yeah, and I like that part.
That I'm going to go back to that over and over and over and over and over and over again, because that is the intent of that law.
If there was a different platform, a different style platform that went through whatever they need to go through, which is pretty much nothing other than bidding and making sure the process happens that meets the needs of the actual task at hand for said fee. Right. So a Harvey County Talk could possibly get in the works there and figure out how to build a system that could qualify that.
Well, the system's already there.
So it's just putting in a bid at this point. So you could have multiple.
The system is already there. And in Kansas, it's called Column. Okay, that's what it's called. And despite all the bluster that you may have heard, every newspaper in the Kansas Press Association uses Column.
Roger that.
Okay?
Yeah.
Straight up.
That's behind the scenes making the sausage.
That is behind the scenes making the sausage. And it was during RNR, the first year of RNR, where a lot of newspapers got bit by that system. Because how that works is anybody from the city can actually input the legal notice into column.
Oh, wow. And that's where they're starting to talk about stuff at the state level.
Yes, and see, and my frustration during that whole period was that those cities, townships, and school districts that got bit, what happened was they did not do a proper publication of their R&R notification, and then that turned around and made sure that they couldn't raise the money they needed to raise.
Yeah. So and then I talked with this about...
And where that broke down was that the official newspapers, and that did not happen at the Newton Kansan, but the official newspapers weren't checking things. They weren't looking at it going, you know what, I don't think this is right. And they weren't picking up the phone and calling a school superintendent and saying, you need to go back in and check this. I don't think this is right.
Well, if there's no requirement for do that, I mean, you just copy and paste it, right?
But that system...
Who's responsible for that?
That system also can auto-populate, and does, the newspaper's website with legal notices. Okay? What I've been trying to clean up from the Kansan's perspective is how you get there as a user. Because it's not clear.
Okay, I have a question.
So they're there, and they're online, and they're on, for example, the Newton Kansan's website. That's already going on. And the infrastructure for that is already done.
Built in there.
So I got a question.
It is built and there.
Let's say the Kansan does this. Okay, so just to throw out an idea here, and we can move on to maybe just real quick a couple of other what will be, I think, some interesting things that have passed and have come up, and then obviously something that's going to be a top priority, and we can discuss things that are going on in legislature and podcasts to come. So, why couldn't it be as like it has to be printed? Does it say it has to be printed on paper?
It does.
Okay. So what could happen? We could see a change here, right? If something were to happen, you could say, we're going to pay X amount to have this published on a third-party website such as the Kansan. So the cost of that could go down astronomically to the service that the Kansan provides.
Sure, for most newspapers, the cost could go down. For us, I don't know that it could. We're taking a pretty sizable loss every year.
Right, but that also includes the printing on the paper.
I know, but we still have people, and
yeah,
for us, I don't know that we could go much below where we're at. And I know that others absolutely can't go below where they are.
And yeah,
it's just not going to happen, because at the end of the day, these are still businesses.
Yep. The numbers have to work.
And the numbers got to work.
Unless they take it out of that entirely. Like somebody asked a question, why couldn't we have a state website, right, that all of these different public entities just import, right? And then from there, a user can go and they can just look up legal notices, go to wherever their need.
All that's fine.
And then be audited by a third party. And it's like,
yes.
I mean, this discussion is going to happen. Yes. I'm sure it is.
Oh, sure.
But you know what? We already had that, and it didn't work.
Like in 2018 or something like that?
We actually had it through the Kansas Press Association.
So that was that third party entity?
Every member was a part of submitting, and it was essential. And you know what? The truth of the matter is, nobody freaking reads these things.
Bingo.
There's no traffic. That's why the centralized website for KPA didn't work.
Well,
there was no traffic.
Pushback? My question too is that did they get some pushback too because the KPA's resolution to a perceived issue in the future is to do X, Y, and Z, but at the same time, for these papers who heavily rely on that source of income to be printed in the paper, there's got to be some pushback there. Okay, so other things. Okay. I think one of the number one things that are going to happen here at the legislature this year is the discussion about redistricting. I read something that Ty Masterson had talked about that and said that that's a number one priority. So I'm sure that they'll do that. Of course, they couldn't do a special session, but that gave them a little bit more time. And I, have your opinion on whatever special session. Property tax at the state level continues. That discussion is going to be here about whether or not the state of Kansas can relieve property taxes that they levy as part of the revenue that they receive in order to make Kansas work, which I don't know. I'm seeing some writing on the wall here. It's like where history is repeating itself. My opinion on this is there's no end to people right now that are saying, well, I don't want to pay sales tax. We shouldn't have sales tax. I don't want to pay property tax. We shouldn't have property tax. I don't want to pay federal income tax. Shouldn't have to pay federal income tax. Well, before long, all of these taxes that you don't want to pay, how do you expect to pay for roads, bridges, law enforcement,
water,
all of these things? I mean, at
any
some
and
point,
all of our infrastructure.
Well, yeah, eventually you're going to get on that road and it's going to need work and there's no money to work on it. And then, this is where you get this stuff though, right? I mean, and there's some reality here, when you hear about these $9 billion in other states that have been siphoned out of the system, right? That kind of stuff pisses the average person off. And they're like, I'm paying too much damn taxes. And there's some logic behind how they're seeing that. And if you look at those budgets I have, it's still in the room that I'm throwing out. I have a whole 6 years worth of budgets from the school. The whole thing. Everything's public. Tell me where the waste is that people are talking about we waste.
Well, I don't think there is as much on a local level.
Well, there's not.
I mean,
I can confidently tell you that with the school system, we are doing things pretty well because people in the 90s really set us up in the late 90s to be where we're at today compared to a lot of schools out there. Yeah. Newton's doing good work.
Well, and we are, and this goes back to this. I believe that
the scores won't say that. So I just want to.
I have a saying. One man's governmental waste is another man's necessary program.
Well, and then that gets into the question: what is the government responsible to? And so then you have, and we've gotten into this. It's this weird thing. It is, and it goes back to. Everybody's definition of a Republican is different. Generally, there might be some overlapping things, but everybody's definition of what a Democrat is different. Everybody's definition of, like we were talking about at the beginning of the program, investment is different. Or what was the hot topic word that we used, Andy? It was inclusive.
Oh yeah,
right. Inclusive. Well, what does that mean? That's a horrible
word. Every time you see it, it's bad.
Yeah, public service. Well, what does public service mean?
Every single time.
And then we redefine
the word liberal.
Liberal.
Yeah.
Conservative.
Yeah. I just got schooled on some of that today.
That conversation
because
we had
of how
earlier.
It's been hijacked.
Yeah.
Liberal is a bad
these
word.
Words get hijacked.
What context is it used in, and where is it being used? And to your point, I just got schooled a little bit today. I'm like, wow, there's a deeper institutional setup for that word that had nothing to do with what's been hijacked today, that people are just pounding on the extreme fringes on both sides of the aisle.
Yep.
That are making the rest of us go, I don't even want to listen to your crap anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, 70% of us are done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we love everybody. We don't care about the interracial marriages and all. That don't even bother us at all. It's like these other crazy fringe people that are getting all twisted up about it, and even some in the black community that are in that fringe group. I was just listening to these ladies talk about how they can't say her name because it's earmarked only for black people, and it was started for a black girl in particular. And it sounded so racist.
Yeah.
And I'm going, dude, that's harsh.
That goes back to that whole thing, Black Lives Matter. Well, all lives matter. Oh, my goodness, you can't say that. Well, it's like, wait a minute. Wait a second here.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Okay, let's stop dividing ourselves by race and gender.
To the best of our ability. There are some cultural things, and I'm going to tell you straight up as a Mexican heritage person, I'm an American, but I love my heritage. And we have some things that I love about my culture. And I'm going to be biased to those things, and I'm going to keep those traditions going as long as my kids and my grandfather's, some of his ways are just like part of me, so deep inside of me. It's like an animal or a dog that is just going to hunt a bird because that's what I do, and I don't even know why.
Yeah.
But there are some things about my culture that I don't agree with.
Well, America's supposed to be the country that takes the best of everything.
I think so.
And that's why we call it a melting pot, right?
I think
it's like
so.
You take this culture, and here's what we can do. Let's take the best of what that culture has to offer and add it to the best that this culture has to offer and the best that this culture has. Something that I've found interesting recently is this debate on white culture. Okay? Do white people have a culture? Well, hell yeah, we have a culture, right? But at the same time, if you ask people that are biased...
So let's go white, though. I know some Germans
and that's
that
the whole
have
thing.
a very cool piece of heritage, and
Yes.
there's some of the
Irish.
I mean, you got Bierox and
Yes.
things like that are like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yes.
Right? And they have sausages that are just, they're not chorizo, which is, but I like their sausages, and I sometimes want to say cooked a certain way better than I like chorizo.
Well, turkey, red, winter wheat.
And then you've got Irish
Right.
people, right? The Irish, they're considered white, right? But
Yeah.
Irish people have a whole different spin
Corned
if you
beef
really
and
get
hash,
involved,
baby. Yeah,
dude. And then you've got, I mean, you're gonna
Give me an
going,
oyster fry for breakfast every time. And yes, I'll eat
We
the bread.
love-
And then you got some
potatoes.
Frenchies, right? The Frenchies, and talk about some of the breads and I mean, are
Yeah.
you kidding me? Like, where do you go with this stuff? And to your point, Lance, like, respecting women
Yeah.
and how we treat our girls and the way Americans are when we're going in that direction with Title IX and all those reforms and having our girls wrestle now. My daughter is wrestling. And up until about 6 years ago, she would have to wrestle with boys.
Yeah.
Fastest growing sport in the United States today is high school girls wrestling.
Dude, my daughter's changing. It's been 2 weeks.
Loves
It's
it.
getting me emotional.
And I assume changing in a good way.
Dude,
All the things that
I can't
are
even tell you
benefited,
the
yes.
little things that are major big for her.
She found something, she tapped in, she loves it, and then she is going overboard, most likely, in self-improving to be better at whatever it is that
It's
she
beautiful.
loves.
And she has her friends that she's clicking with that are doing those things, which makes it so powerful. And it's such a tool for a family like mine to help her and to rally around her, and something that just 6 years ago was not possible. We are growing and learning, but there are these bombs that are coming in around the sides trying to disrupt that part. There's some cultures where that's not okay. Okay? And some of my culture doesn't like that. Those are the things about my culture that I'm willing to put aside to support my baby girl, and where I want her to have those opportunities. And I think that's America, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with her doing what she's doing, and there's nothing but good and empowerment coming from that. That's an example of me, even as a person, going, man, my grandfather would hate that.
Yeah.
But I'm so proud that she gets to do that.
She going to be out at the high school tomorrow?
She probably will be. If there's something to do with wrestling right now, with her shift, and it's only been a couple weeks, but it's major, with even her conversations around what she's eating. Just all her.
Yeah.
She's going to figure it out.
She's going to start eating for fuel. She's going to start eating. She's going to start eating for power. She's going to be intentional
Focused.
and focused.
Well, for all
And
kids, man.
she's being vulnerable
Yep.
in a place that's really hard for almost any person to be vulnerable, because in wrestling, you don't win every match. Not even a Wyatt Hendrickson
Right.
No.
has won everything.
And that'll test the salt of a human being.
Deep
Like,
down
Yeah.
and pushing through. And I said, yesterday, picked her up from practice on the way home, one of my favorite 30 minutes. On purpose, I'd take a while. I said, so how was your day? And I said, so tell me about wrestling. And she just body language, facial expressions, everything changed.
Tough day.
And then it was tough. And I said, are you doing okay? She says, yeah. I said, are you learning? She said, yes. And I said, do you feel more confident? She said, yes. And I said, are you scared? She said, a little bit. And I said, are you learning to control it? I'm trying, Dad. I'm trying. That's powerful, guys.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that one thing we need to focus on when it comes to our youth is all of them are different, right? They all have different likes and interests and things that they enjoy. And if you can just guide them, right? To say, we don't have to do this, but let's do something like this, right? Just having that parental maturity and understanding that it's really a need for if it's chess club, if it's debate, if it's swimming, if it's more than one, if it's football, basketball, wrestling, whatever it is, or maybe like in my situation, something that was really good for my kid, we did Taekwondo, right? So martial arts, whatever it is find out what their interest is and nurture them in that direction in order to prevent all kinds of things that these youth deal with today, because truly idle hands are the devil's playground. On this next one, the next thing that's going to be talked about in legislature, and if we don't hurry along through this, so I'm gonna make an opinion real quick and then go on to the next topic. But it appears that the Kansas legislature is going to have to tackle some difficult conversations, and that has to do with energy and primarily data centers. Okay. We just recently had something here locally that happened where a community decided absolutely no way on these battery energy storage systems. Okay. I'm watching this, and there's other places across the state of Kansas that are saying, no, we don't want them in our community, whatever that might be, wherever that might be. There might be different factors for it, but I think there's a general consensus on why people are afraid of the technology. But the reality is, folks, and this is my opinion, okay, these are not going anywhere. With our current infrastructure surrounding energy and the course for the future, this is not slowing down. We're not going to have less data centers as we go forward. We're going to have more. That's just the way this is, especially with the advent of AI technology. We're not going to have less people using energy. We're not going to use less energy. We're going to use more. So then, because that puts a draw on the energy system, then they need to figure out a way to store energy. Then we have new technology like solar energy or wind energy that can produce energy, but also needs to be captured in order to reroute that energy. This technology is not going away. This is the future. So you have to ask yourself the question, risk reward, what do I know? What can we do? We keep talking about moratorium and ban and moratorium and ban on all of these things. But you can only do that for so long when you're looking at it from a state perspective before other people get on board and they have the benefits of that versus communities that put their feet in drag their feet or put their, put their flag, plant their flag and say, not here. This is something that's not going away. You might think a little bit about what's
Harvey County, just moratorium to data centers.
Yeah.
Until 2008.
For
so
three,
I don't know.
3 years.
You're going to be the guy that listens to this stuff.
And we'll
and I know that your time, this is where I get frustrated. If you had 9 people on your staff, what you could really do with certain stories, because you have to get stuff done, is where we got to figure out how journalism gets to that point. Because there's so many of these kind of topics that we are so ignorant, and we get the fringes controlling certain things. Yep. And as long as they're getting their needs met behind the scenes for things that they truly don't understand, it's frustrating to know that's happening, but you can't whack everything and go around chasing everything, right? Yeah. But you have a concept, we know what's happening, right? That, yeah, customer facing, they're saying all these things, but behind the scenes, people are nasty, right? And they just want what they want to feel good, even though it's not benefiting anybody other than themselves, because they feel like they're getting this little secret win between a group of 10 people that want to go and tell their friends they're all powerful and just wink, wink, I got this. It's like, wow, that happens a lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that being said, I don't know enough about this deal other than I smell that. But I also have some concerns about just willy-nilly doing a bunch of stuff, because there's a part of me that's scared of the future, because I know what's coming better than most people, because I'm involved with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the moratorium that they did, honestly, I don't have a problem with it. It's actually kind of smart.
Well, it sounds like they're going to allow them to work on other things.
Well,
they're not buttoned down yet before they get to this.
And tell me if this sounds familiar, because it should. They want to give the Planning and Zoning Board time to do the research. And our P&Z director was on this one she's like being extremely proactive, because there hasn't been anybody walking through the door saying they want to put one of these things in Harvey County.
No.
Yet.
But because the writing's on the wall.
But she wants to be ready. So we put a moratorium on it for 3 years, almost three full years, to allow for that research to happen. Concerns are water usage, land usage, sewage. All valid.
Kind of like getting ahead of the game.
They're all valid concerns.
Let's have this discussion without it being politically charged.
Ding.
Beautiful. And if that's the whole intention here, that's great.
Yeah, let's wait. Let's not have a business
Because we do
show
have time to do those things right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and I'm just going to call things out for what they were. They did a moratorium on wind energy. That was reactive. That was not proactive. The lions were at the gate.
Yeah, already.
They did a moratorium on BESS. Again, that was reactive. The lions were at the gate. So now we're going to be ahead of it. And I'm all for being ahead of it.
Yeah, I saw that blip. I'm going to read that, and I was hoping that when
Good job,
we do our
leadership.
Kansas update,
Yeah.
that we do dive into that a little bit more in depth. So quick, because I know I'm going to put these two things together here, and then we can talk about the most recent death in Minneapolis with the individual that I'm going to say was protesting
That's horrible.
ICE, and then let's just talk about that in a second to unpack that a little bit better, because it depends on what news organization you look to or whatever. And then there's even these AI videos out here right now that are getting people to think that something happened that didn't, or whatever the case may be, and so forth and so on. But okay, so we know what's going on with Iran right now. There's rioting in the street, and I hate to say it, if you're watching global news, that's kind of happening everywhere. People are sick and tired of their government, and they want to change. It's happening in UK, it's happening in Australia, it's happening in Iran, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So do you guys think we'll see a regime change in Iran? And if so, what do you believe will be that? I mean, there's even some talk about the Iranian prince that was ousted,
The son to the father.
Yeah. So then, like, will and then how does that work? Because that goes back to Greenland. That goes back to, and that's why I want to put the two together here. Okay. Right now, we're seeing something that I think is unprecedented in our country's history, and it's not that what we're doing we haven't done 1,000 times before. It's at the rate in which we're doing it, and then why we're doing it. Generally speaking, we would go into a situation or a place like Iran that is known for just, like, if you see pictures of what Iran looked like in the 60s and 70s, and then you look at what happened today.
I think there's a clear message being sent. I mean, get into opinions real quick, right? I mean, the Panama Canal, for me, triggered some, oh, wow, that's interesting that we actually built that, and we lost how many people building it, and they were Americans, and then we gifted it to them for nothing with no expectation in the future, and then it's being used to profit other people and other organizations, and they're trying to take ownership of it, which is the Chinese, right? And that kind of started me going, and then some of the moves made around that. I will tell you that a lot of people don't know this, so this is for our local people that don't have time to listen to podcasts and whatever, and bring some of this information back to this group. Chinese high-level diplomat had just met with them the day before we went in to snatch the president up. That is a clear and concise message I don't know all the details behind the scenes, but all these moves are being made to constrict in our area, in our region, in our what we will call what we want to take as a defensive territory, right? And it's very aggressive, but I think there's been a lot of aggression going on that's been just silent behind the scenes with the digital war that we've been having for the last 12 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Literally a digital war with state-sponsored stuff that's hit our government and things that balloons flying over our country.
Yeah, let's not forget
all
about
of
the
these
weather
things.
balloons.
All these things are just aggression. It's aggressive, and we're being aggressive in our own way. And whether you like it or not, I just believe that this is my opinion. But it all comes down to like why, right? Why are they doing that? Well, they're showing force towards somebody else that they don't want to get in a conflict with. That's scarier, right? It would really mess things up. And they're also showing that we're not trying to play. And the thing is, it's going to last 3 years. Then what happens? Where does the shift go? Yeah. Do we open up the borders again and cause more chaos and havoc and and the excuses are, this is fact. The prisons were emptied out. People were taken to borders and other states bust them over to our borders. That happened. Mental institutions were emptied out. People were brought to our borders and they came into our country. That happened, whether we like it. And that's an excuse to the bigger picture that they're using of why they did these things, but that did not happen, right? Yeah. So they're going to use all these, and is what's his name, a cartel boss? Yes, just like Noriega was.
Yeah, but they've even, and I got to tell you, this is difficult. Okay,
go ahead.
I don't think we covered this on last week's program, if I remember correctly, but they've already begun amending the charges, right? So where they were trying to get Maduro up on basically like what we would know, and then it's like RICO, okay? Well, now all of a sudden they're starting to say, well, maybe not that, maybe not.
Is he giving information to the FBI to change that?
I mean, at
People
this
make
stage
deals
in the game,
at all levels.
At this stage in the game, it goes down to the judge.
And you know how crazy I am?
Yeah.
Is the CIA involved with that behind the scenes?
I mean,
I'm that crazy.
How is it not? Okay.
I mean, because the world, you can't trust any of them.
Yes, yeah. Well, honestly. It's like the Iranian regime change. I mean, you got what has. Yeah. Okay. So and this is, I'm sure we'll have this topic of discussion going.
Well, when you look at Iran, we here in the States, we have a question to ask ourselves, and it is, there's like 2,000 people dead. What is the appropriate response from us?
That's hard, because I want to say nothing. It's not our business, but then I'm going.
Same here.
How many?
But then but
there's 2,000 people dead.
Why didn't you get about all the Germany people earlier, right? And then we waited all the way, and then we had to get involved. But then we've turned into something totally different since then. And where's the balance between all this?
And then where do we?
Know.
Okay,
I don't have all the answers.
And so then
it's hard.
Yes,
it's very hard.
And I'll ask the question too, like even to throw this in here. Okay, how many places across the globe, especially these countries that are underdeveloped by our standard, how many Christians are dying right now? We talked about that, right?
Slaughtered.
So
Africa.
well, is it our government's responsibility to go in there and stop those people from getting slaughtered?
So let me bring this to a real scary place in my mind, and this may be nothing to other people. A woman just got killed, American, for disrupting federal government from what she felt like is wrong. She was blocking roads. She was protesting. We get the right to do that here, but there are some rules, or there should be.
You get the right to peaceful protest.
Yeah.
Well,
you can't obstruct justice.
Okay,
right.
There's a lot there, but here's where I'm going to tie this crazy together. I feel like deep down inside, and what I'm going to say for the first time publicly, because I still don't have enough information on that, because there's so much crazy going on. You don't know what's real until about 6 months after. She should have been minding her own damn business, in my opinion. If you're on the sidewalk and not impeding traffic and all that, she would have never gotten killed. Still sucks, and it's not okay that she got killed, right? But I understand, if I'm that officer, I might have shot her too. Sorry. That's where I'm at. But I go back to minding your own damn business. Should we be doing all the things we're doing given the context of our country right now internally? And I want to say we should be minding our own damn business.
Well, and I think there's a lot of
because
fan
if
in the
not, we're going to
flames.
get shot in the face, and then we're going to blame everybody else for getting shot in the face. Because if we have half of our country's grid go down because we are pushing a war that's pretty much already here, they call it a Cold War.
Mm-hmm. And we get an attack.
I think
on
we just
our
need to
nation.
jock up and get ready for some real tough stuff, because there's a point in time when you have to punch the bully in the face.
Yep.
Or somebody trying to be a bully when you still got the upper hand.
Yeah.
And you realize I better do something now to establish dominance before we are taken over.
Well, it's like, look at all these.
It's a weird place to be.
Yes.
Our era is a weird
Yes.
place to be, right?
I've firm believed. I
wish we could mind our own damn business.
Well, and I firmly believe, okay, I am all for growing the United States. Okay, absolutely 100%. We talked about this. I mean, it was I3. It might have been all the way back when Sissy was on the program. But my worldview is, you know, if a country becomes a U.S. territory, that's the first path to statehood. And then from there, they have to petition the U.S. government. I'm saying this very loosely, trying to get very general because it's very complicated. But then that country can petition the United States and their own people vote to be a state, and then can theoretically be a state. And I've long believed that with our territories that we currently have, that we should allow them statehood if they want it. To say that they do or they don't or whatever, just like Greenland. Greenland could choose to be a state of the United States, but that's not necessarily what Greenland wants. So I'm not against going from, 50 states to 52 to 55 to 60 and seeing that as a benefit, whether we call that American exceptionalism, whatever the case may be, I don't know. But if we truly have the best government, which is questionable, and people want to be part of the United States of America, that there should be, or there could be a pathway, and there is. So getting into this, right? But
So do you know how many territories we currently have?
I think 13.
7.
So 7? Is that?
Well, the Greenland thing's interesting to me, right? And here's kind of the hard tax in my mind from what I'm gathering. If we don't take it, Russia or China will. And that's harsh, but that's what I think the excuse is right now.
Yep.
That's where the narrative is going. And I also feel like, as a Chad word, straight up, we look like, to me, as American citizen, we're posturing for war. We're getting ready for war.
Oh,
Why?
yes.
What do we know, or what do we not know? And this is where I get frustrated, right? Because the government keeps things in their pockets, right? The Pentagon, and there's reasons they do what they do, and they keep some of that stuff private. And one, not to create havoc and panic across our civilians, right? But at the end of the day, I see us as we're preparing for war. We're looking at strategic areas that we can be attacked from. And what is right and wrong when we know that the 57,000 people or whatever live in Greenland will be overtook by our enemy? How does that conversation happen in an appropriate way? And I'm not sure what that looks like, because it's harsh.
Yeah.
But the reality of war and America getting into it with China straight out is so devastating to the world on so many levels. I hope we're able to find a way through it.
Yeah, and because we got to fact check ourselves. Okay, you might fact check this too, but I was wrong, but right, but you were wrong, but right. Just so people know here.
Bust out.
The U.S. has 14 territories with 5 inhabited. The inhabited are Puerto Rico, Guam, U.S. Virgin Islands, America Samoa, Northern Mariana Islands, and then 9 uninhabited U.S.
Okay.
So, so we're not wrong. We're not wrong. We correct ourselves. Just ask AI, right? And then who knows? I might ask AI something different, a different way, and it gives something.
Or you
different.
ask another AI and it'll tell you something a little different.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
AI to your flavor.
It's careful
It's
with
like,
how it says. So somebody
Yeah,
corrected
it is-
me. I
it
want to
is
say this on the
careful.
podcast. I said something about fentanyl coming from Venezuela. And because the reports from the government were there was boats that they knew had fentanyl in it getting transported to. And somebody said, fentanyl doesn't come from Venezuela. And I'm going, well, hell yeah, they're trafficking that into our country. So I get online and I ask Grok how much of America's fentanyl, because it's coming from Venezuela. And it's basically saying not very much.
Yeah.
So almost not enough to even calculate. And I'm saying, well, what is that percentage? Well, there's no information from any source saying it. And I'm like, well, the black market's not going to sit there and tell people how they're using transporting routes for narcotics.
Yeah.
But I stand to be corrected if you're going to, because then I went to Chat GTP and it was pretty much the same thing, but there was a little bit saying that there's, and then I was like, well, how much of the cocaine is already mixed with fentanyl as it's coming through?
Yeah. And do you ever get, okay, now I got
You know,
okay.
and then you can go and go and go.
Anytime you ask, okay, and this has got to have happened to you with AI, right? Anytime you start, because I was doing some research, right, about that, just trying to figure out, okay, so somebody told me too that, like, well, you know, when it comes to Venezuela, of all of the countries that are responsible for importing substances into the United States, Venezuela is very low on the list. So why do we go after Venezuela versus why didn't we go after these other places that, like Mexico, right? It's like top of the list. Right. But even then, it's difficult because China is where the precursors are made, and then they go some. So it's like, so who's respect? But AI
they're trying to make it now in Mexico, because it's cheaper for them now.
When it comes to AI, people, please do not forget to think for yourself.
Well, I'm telling you.
I'm telling you.
I just like to plug it in the map and go.
Well, and then you ask it, if you ask I'm gonna send the same question 5 different ways, it very potentially could give you 5 different answers.
Okay. I'm
maybe real specific.
I'll send you some information that leads me to make that statement. And here it is. And it sounds really stupid, but here it is. So about a week and a half ago, I turned to AI to start creating team files for the NCAA College Football 26. I have this dream of creating an entire conference. Most of the teams in Kansas. And so I turned to that for some ideas and to make graphics and all that fun stuff. And it has kicked out some really great stuff. I'm not going to debate that in any way, shape, or form. But the team that I just finished up, the Hyde Park Gunslingers is what I just finished up. I threw out at least 2 different generations before I found one that I thought would be okay. And it wasn't okay until I personally sat down and did actual uniform design.
It's good. I mean, it has its
So do not forget to think for yourself.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Have you ever used Google Maps when you're in California?
Yep. Well,
and it told you to take a right off the cliff?
No.
Well, look, it says it here.
We need to do it.
So I'm just gonna trust that when I take that right and hit the gas, there'll be a road right there that I don't see.
Hey, I'm using those tools. Yeah. I'm using those navigation tools upwards of 10 to 15 times a day, just in Newton. And I'm telling you what.
Yeah. It would have taken me to my neighbors
over and over again. I'm like, no, that's not the way to get there.
But, I'm going to tell you this. There are people that are showing who they really are, and you're clicking on their stuff. And if you're getting mad, it's because you're wanting to think of something or believe something that's probably a little bit shady. Yeah. Just so you people know out there with those algorithms are keeping you there for a reason. Yeah. Yeah. Look at yourself in the mirror when you start getting frustrated about something you shouldn't.
Because it's just rage baiting you.
100%. And it's working. And right now it's on steroids with this new situation that happened. Okay. Absolutely. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we are coming in the program. Sure. Do the final words. Man, I'm going to have to figure out how to do this somewhat different because I either bring too many topics to the table. Or
our flow just is crazy.
Yeah. Well,
our flow is nuts.
So I mean, I'm going to bump something off. I know we want to talk a little bit more in depth about the death of the person in Minneapolis, and then we can do that next week. All right, fair enough to you guys.
Sure. We scraped it, but
yeah. Final words, Chad, Andy.
Final words. The Newton Tournament of Champions is this week. It's this week. So get your butt over to Newton High School. It is always a good time, and it is always it's one of the best tournaments in the state. No 2 ways about it. And we're going to have a whole bunch of Newton High School kids competing, girls and boys.
Andy?
Choose your battles wisely. When you bark at every car that goes by, people stop hearing you bark. There's a lot of things going on in our community right now, and I hope that people stay plugged in. They stay on the things that matter to them, and give people a chance to operate before you judge them. But if you're narrow focused and you see people doing dumb things that hurts our community, I want to hear about it.
Call them out. Call them out. And then I just got one, we talk about Venezuela and drugs and everything else, and that there's personal experiences in my life, and I just got to say I was thinking pretty in depth over the last couple of days, and just know that so many hearts and lives are broken due to addiction. Get help. You're loved and cared about more than you could ever imagine. Have a good one, everybody.